What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. So today I would like to talk a little bit about an install commission that I completed on an N1 from Ng Sabers. Now this particular N1 has been very beautifully etched and powder coated by Nick over at Ng Sabers. It has been etched and powder coated with a Pacific Northwest tribal theme, like Native American style theme. And it is a really, really cool design. So one of the requests by the customer for this install was that we get some of that theming in the chassis as well. So we try to make the chassis go a little bit in line with that Pacific Northwest tribal theme, right? So, full disclosure, doing greeblies is fine. Like I can do greeblies and squares and circles and ridges all day long on a chassis. Finding the right assets to put on this chassis was a little difficult for me, right? So I didn't want to just throw random American Indian totems on this chassis. I wanted to make sure that I got some that were obviously Pacific Northwest tribal themed, right? We got a lot of like salmon and some killer whale stuff, I believe, as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that theme on the chassis as well. So I did a little bit. I learned a little bit doing this chassis, which was pretty cool, right? And I'm super happy with how it came out, right? So I want to come into Fusion and talk about the chassis a little bit. And then obviously we will come up top and do a quick demo, right? So let's come into Fusion. Okay, so here it is, right? This is the chassis. This is for the N1 from Ng Sabers. Now, I have done a couple of N1s, and this is essentially the same chassis that I've done in the past, like it's the same install, right? But I just changed a little bit of the greebly work on the chassis. I wouldn't really call this greebly work. So this is essentially, these are images that I created, I converted into SVG and embossed them on the side of the chassis, right? And we've got some other Native American themed etching along this ridge here. But, pretty straightforward chassis design-wise. I just wanted to make sure that we stayed in line with that, Pacific tribal theme, okay? There is no greebly work or designs in this area of the chassis because this is actually hidden in the upper section of the hilt itself. This is a static chassis. It stays in place. I've got two indentations for some tactile switches here. I mount red 6x6 tactile switches, and this is how there are two plungers on the outside of the hilt, and that is what makes a connection to those switches. I also have a ridge here where I installed a 2020 Neopixel strip on each side, so we get some shine through in the upper mesh or grill section of the hilt. I did the same thing in the pommel. I didn't add the speaker pod here, but in the pommel there is a speaker pod, and in that pommel there are also some mesh. So I wanted to get some shine through in that pommel. So in the speaker pod, I designed little indentations for small LED pixel or pico LEDs, essentially from Adafruit is where they came from. Just to get some animation in the pommel. We'll go over that when we do an up and close. Kill switch is down below here. The reason this is so low is because I wanted to. The way that you can hit this kill switch is just by unscrewing the pommel. So like easy access to the kill switch by just taking your pommel off, so you don't have to unthread the entire grip. Proffie board does sit in this tray. It is secured up underneath this lip. And that's it, right? I also wire up my lit blade PCB as well. And the whole chassis is held in place with a set screw in the upper part of the hilt, right? So let's come up top. All right, so here it is. This is the N1 from Ng Sabers that has been beautifully etched and powder coated by Nick at Ng Sabers. So this is a really, really, really cool Pacific tribal themed hilt and etch on this. So again, I wanted to stay in line with this theme when we designed the chassis. So I'm pretty happy with the result. I really love this hilt. This is one of those hilts, again, that it's like ripe for modifications. I've seen folks do some really, really cool stuff with this grip, or with this hilt rather, right? It makes a great speeder hilt. It is based off of an engine, right? I've seen some knurled grips. It's just a great hilt for modifications, right? And etching, obviously. So let's talk about how to use this guy. The pommel does unthread. There is a speaker pod in the pommel, and I did design some little indentations to hold those very small LEDs, right? So we get some shine through in the grills here. Then to get at your chassis, just unthread that grip. And here is the chassis. So I did a pass of pewter rub and buff, and then I went back over these figures or these totems with some bronze rub and buff, just to give us a little bit of contrast on the hilt or on the chassis itself, right? Really, really happy with how that came out. Proffie board is here. This is a Proffie V3 build, okay? So let me get a battery. Would help if I was prepared, right? All right, so to use the hilt, spring side is your negative, so take the flat part of your battery down towards the speaker or towards the pommel, okay? So you can hit your kill switch now, but you're not going to hear anything, obviously, because the speaker pod's not connected. But this is a Proffie V3, so you'll see your blinking status light on the board itself. If you are looking at the kill switch, to your right is on, to your left is off, right? So you get your battery in, thread your grip on, until it stops. Whoops, I turned it on. Until it stops or until it's snug. Another thing I like about this hilt is that it came with O-rings, right? So you're not over cranking stuff. And then let's put our speaker pod in place, right? So I like to try and line these LEDs up with the mesh grill. It's not a terrible amount of shine through, but it is a cool little accent, right? So there is that. I've got one blinking green and one blinking white down there. Let's see what else we put on here.
Don't talk back to your elders, child.
And there's that shine through in the grill. All right, let's come down to the bottom. Right, so I wanted to get some sort of shine through up there. I really like having that animation. I actually used to have one of these in my collection, and that's how I installed mine as well. And then we've got some animation in the pommel. And I tried to change the animation for each font. Whoops. So each font's got a different animation in that grill section, right? So let's put a blade in it. Okay, so this is a 1-inch blade holder. Just kind of rest your blade on those PCB pins. There is a nice M4 set screw around the side here that will serve as your blade retention. So tighten that, and then you're ready to go. Let's see what else we put on here. Whoops.
I'm never touching that thing again.
Gotta watch out for my fan. All right, one more. Whoops. Really, really cool hilt, right? So this one was a lot of fun to design a chassis for. You know, it's not my typical design aesthetic, so it was interesting to try and tackle that and make sure it didn't look out of place, you know? So anyhow, to the customer, thank you very much for trusting me with your install. If anyone has any questions about this particular chassis or this install, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.